Okay, we're live.
Okay, I guess it's 5 minutes past and we should start. Thank you all for joining today's session. And as you have known, today is all about a day in the life of a cyber security professional, where we bring people practicing in this industry to share some insight on what they do and how they do it. I'm your host for today. My name is Sulia Muktala Sese. Today's session is more of internal, and subsequent session will bring people across the industry. It's more of a Q&A session where our guest speaker we ask them questions for 30 to 45 minutes, and the floor will be open for your contributions and if you have any question. Our guest today is a senior cybersecurity consultant with over 10 years of experience in this space. He has worked across different industry, including oil and gas, consulting, hospitality, financial, and to mention a few. Please allow me to introduce Dr. Muktala Sese, also known as DML. DML, please introduce yourself to the house.
Yeah, thank you, Celia. Just like you haven't met me before, right?
I know.
Yeah, thank you all for joining today's session. Like she rightly said, my name is Dr. Muktala Sisi. Some people call me DML, or you can call me Toby. Some call me Toby. And yes, I've worked in this securing organizational crime drill. I've done that for over 10 years now. And of course, that has been with different titles as you can think of. But yeah, in that time, or I was over time, I've chosen to specialize in two key areas of security, which is really maturing the security practice, largely through automation, and ensuring organizational compliance with regulatory requirements. So, and yeah, some of the initiatives I've led around GDPR compliance, PCI DSS, ISO 27001, ISO 27701, certification and recertification, and SOC 2 audit. And of course, I've automated several, I can't even count, several cybersecurity practices, including for some of the biggest clients you can think of. Yeah, that's like a summary about myself.
Thank you for that brief introduction. My next question is going to be around what motivated you to pursue this career, and how did you get started?
Sorry, repeat that question. I missed it.
So what motivated you to pursue a career in cybersecurity, and how did you get started in the field?
Okay, thank you. That's thank you for that question. Really, okay, where do I start from? So my motivation generally as a person is really, I like to be a part of, like I always say to people, for those that know me, I like to be a part of something that is bigger than myself. So in other words, I like to engage in big initiatives, high visibility initiatives, and leveraging my IT experience. That was really how or why I chose to get into project management. And cybersecurity wasn't even in the picture at all until that fateful day that, just give me 1 second, please. Second. Yeah, sorry about that. I have my little kid here with me. So until that fateful day when I think it was back in 2019 or 2018, I can't remember exactly. A friend of mine, I've known him now for over 11 years, picked the call. He picked his phone up. He's in the UK, and we would likely bring him to this session one of these days. Very experienced person, and I'm sure you guys would take a lot of value from him. So he called me up and said, "What are you still doing in IT and projects?" I said, "What do you mean? You're needed in cybersecurity." I said, "No, the last time I wrote a line of code was 2008, about 10 years ago at that time, and I didn't enjoy it. I tried my hands on database administration way back. I didn't enjoy it as well. And why would I want to do cybersecurity now, since all I need to do is code as a cybersecurity professional? And the guy's like, no, I don't think so. I have an accounting background and I've been in cybersecurity for a few years now. I'll say you should try it out. He sent me loads of materials, loads of things to read. Out of curiosity, I started reading, and everything started to make sense. Like, okay, wait, I've actually done a lot of these things. At the point in 2019, I chose to write my first certification, which was ISO 27. Maybe that's why I love ISO so much. ISO 27001 lead implementer by Advisera. It's a proctored exam. Well, from what I read, was supposed to be tough. At least that's what I read. And it wasn't, I think, an hour and a half exam, 60 questions or 40 questions. And I finished in less than 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, wait, that was so easy. What's going on? This can't be it. And of course, I started to apply to jobs, thinking, okay, I was just messing around. I got like lots of interviews, surprisingly. And of course, offers came through, one of which was a CISO role, which I turned down, of course. On my head, I was like, okay, no, I've never even tried my hands on, like, I've never had that title of cybersecurity desk. Why would I take a CISO role? For those that do not know what CISO is, it's Chief Information Security Officer. Right. So my first role, which for a long time I didn't consider cybersecurity, was a senior cybersecurity program manager. I think it was 2020 or 2021 that had the title specifically dedicated to cybersecurity. And for a long time, I didn't consider it cybersecurity because it was maturity and automation. And I was still saying to myself, that cannot be cybersecurity. For those that are close to me, they'll probably know this. At the point, I enrolled in a boot camp to say, I really want to know what cybersecurity is about. I'm not sure I know enough. And I got in there. I left the boot camp after the first day because I was like, no, I know everything you're talking about already. Then I left. So then I took the next role, which was a compliance role. And I think that's why I've kind of focused on those two areas, which was a compliance, GDPR compliance manager role. And exactly the same thing. Like, we just felt like a familiar territory. It didn't feel like anything new, anything strange. And yeah, the rest is history, like they say. And like I say to people, I largely do pretty much the same things I've done for many years, but now I'm known differently and I'm paid differently. So that's really, I guess, my journey summarized, why I started, how I started, and where I'm at today. You're mute, I think, or you're double muted.
Yeah, thank you. So apologies for that. Thank you for that, for telling us that. Can you give us like an overview? And this is my next question. Can you give us like an overview of what your role and responsibility is?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I'll just put it in four. So what I do, be it maturing a cybersecurity practice or helping an organization become compliant or ensuring that they're compliant with certain regulations, I'll put them in four steps, really: assessment, recommendation, implementation, and follow-up. So assessment in anything, and for those that are not already in cybersecurity, this shouldn't be strange to you as well. What you want before you can improve anything, you want to know where they currently are at, right? What are they currently doing? What business is that organization into? That's the first thing you want to know. So you want to assess their current state, as BAs and the likes will call it. You want to understand their current state. And of course, you know what future state they want to get to. So for example, let's say it's a compliance program. You know what the compliance requirements are, but you want to understand their current state and their context, what in SOC 2 they would call the controlled environment. What are they doing? What do they sell? What do they do? And where does their cybersecurity practice lie in today's world? What risks do they face as a result of what they do? Because that would speak a lot about what controls they should have in place. So what risks do they face? What controls do they have in place to mitigate those risks? And then that's more like what you call a gap assessment compared to what the regulation suggests they do to be compliant, right? Or let's say in the case of maturity, what does the maturity model say and what level are they trying to get to? What should they do to be at that level, like a gap assessment? So I'll put all that under assessment, right? And once you have that, the next step would be recommendation. You're looking at their environment and you're saying you have some, and I always say there's no organization with zero security and there's no organization with full maturity. So you can't get into an organization and say, oh, they don't have anything, we're starting from scratch. No, they have something. It may be all over the place. It may not come together, and that's your job to do, to find out what they have that they don't have to reinvent the wheel on, right? But they must have something in place. And it's your job to find out and say, okay, these are the things you already have that is going well for you. And these are the things you need to do you need to improve on, or you need to add to the things that are going well to be in the state that you want to be in, or in the state that the regulation requires you to be in. So that's the recommendation. And they can come back to you to accept your recommendation and say, oh, accept some of them or most of them, depending, and say, oh, yes, we can do this, we can do that. And you will work with them to come up with a roadmap or a plan, a project plan. So that phase requires a lot of coordination, a lot of working with stakeholders across board, talking about the core IT, the infrastructure guys, the other security guys, vendors, depending on how the environment is set up, other departments, finance, payroll, HR, depending on what program you're working on. So you will coordinate, you would work with stakeholders across board. So that's the implementation. That's so recommendation, then implementation. Implementation is actually implementing the controls, putting things in place, or in some cases, requesting for exception, depending if it's internal or external. Requesting for exceptions or actually implementing some controls. And lastly, yes, they've done all these things. You want to follow up. Are the controls effective? Then you follow up. Part of follow up is like doing another assessment. You know what they say, where are we now? Right? That you're checking to say, okay, where are we now? Are we there yet? You know, like the kids always saying, are we there yet? So you want to check, are we there? Are we where we're supposed to be yet? If not, what else do we need to do to get there? So that's the last step of it. And of course, like any other project, you would write your report or your opinion and present to them. Say, yeah, we started this way, we found this risk, we mitigated it this way, and this is where we're at now, because they need to know. They can't put their money in and not know where they're at. And you know, the beauty of what I do is when you present that report to them and they see where they were, because most of the time they're like a mile, like 1,000 miles away from where they should be. And say 6 months or 8 months later, they're in a good place, in the sweet spot, they're always happy. They're always happy. And that gives me a lot of joy as a consultant. Thank you.
Yeah, that is great. My next question is going to be, what do you believe are the most critical qualities to be successful in cybersecurity?
Hey, that's a good question. Thank you. And I don't know. I'm trying as much as possible to not speak anything technical, because you know, one thing I say is that this space is not, if I have my way, I wouldn't call it IT. I wouldn't call it IT, because what we do, yes, we touch a lot of technology, but we are not exactly in the business of, we're not in the technology business. Let me put it that way. Our core business, our primary business, is to serve the client, is to enable the business. So the first quality, the number one quality of a cybersecurity professional, especially in a similar space to mine, if you're in information security management, is to have business acumen. And business acumen is you really understanding what your client is into, how they operate, why they do what they do, and what, of course, that would feed into you understanding the risk they can face and how you can help. So what you're doing, in other words, what you're doing primarily is to look at what can go wrong based on what they're doing and help them make sure, or advise them so that those things don't go wrong. But again, it's not your job to say you must do this. If you point it to them and they say they know the risk is there, but we accept it, then that's your job done as a cybersecurity professional or consultant in this space. So understanding the business, thinking from their own point of view is your number one quality if you want to succeed in this space. The second one, I'd say, is you must be able to ask questions. Ask a lot of questions because you don't know it. I prefer to be the dumbest person in the room when I'm working with a client. I know what I know. They know I know security. What I don't know better than them is their business or their operation, their processes. So I rely on them to tell me what they do and how they do it and why they do it. So I'll ask a lot of questions and I will listen a lot. Even when I feel like I understand what they're saying, I try to rephrase it to them. Are you saying this? This is what I understand you're saying. Is my understanding correct? Or are you saying this is what you do or this is why you do this? So just the clarifying questions, just to make sure that you have the facts. Because if you don't have the facts, you can point out risks that are not there or miss risks that are actually there that can land the organization in trouble. And that's when you can also be in trouble because you haven't done your job. But if you've done your job, you've asked the right questions, you have picked the right risks, and you have recommended correctly, and it's okay for them to come back and say, no, we accept that risk, and you have it in writing, that's your job done. So 1, business acumen to ask questions, and 3, you must be a researcher. I'm not saying go and pursue a PhD like me, but you must be a researcher. You must continue to learn. Learn what's the latest update in the industry. Learn new ways of doing risk assessment if there is anything. Learn new things about your organization. You have to keep learning. Learn new compliance requirements. You can't stop learning. You have to be open to it. And I'm not talking about pursuing all the certifications in the world. Certifications don't do the job. That I have to tell you. Certifications are there for you as of course, to get you in the door, or to at least to get you an audience with the client or the hiring manager or whatever, just for your resume, or if you're a consultant, to make sure you can command higher pay. That's what certifications are there for. Certifications will not do the job for you. Certifications will not give you the latest trend in the industry. So if you're not learning in this space, as you know that we do with technology a lot, even though I always argue that we are not tech. I know people eat me raw for that. But yes, we, in my opinion, we are not tech. We deal with a lot of technology. We help make sure that technology works the way they should. We don't fix technology. We don't implement technologies in code, right? So yeah, for me, those are like the 3 key things I see that, of course, without going technical or anything, and of course, talking about research and learning about frameworks and all of that is also key, right? As part of your learning. And another thing, okay, maybe I'll keep this for later. So let me stop there. So 3 key things I'll tell you take away: have business acumen, ask questions and listen a lot, and be a researcher.
Okay. I know part of what you've mentioned is being a business enabler as part of your critical skills. So how do you balance security measures, user convenience, and accessibility to do their work?
Okay. So let me make sure I understand the question. So you're asking, how do I balance the
security measures
security
with
measures that
users'
I recommend?
convenience? Yeah.
Okay. That's a good question. Thank you.
And the ability for them to do their work.
Yes. So in cybersecurity, there are 3 key things we look out for. And of course, a lot of people will be familiar with this term, the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So when you're making recommendations or you're putting together, I remember my CISO, that the same CISO role I talked about. I remember this a lot because it was like the very first offer that came through for me. And I laughed at myself, like, no, you can't do this. So that's why I remember the process really well. I remember talking to the CTO then. Then he asked me, how would you secure our environment? And I said, as a cybersecurity person, we can lock up the whole place. But what would be the value to you as a CTO? Or to you, who was the second person, as the CEO? If we lock up everything, it means you wouldn't even be able to operate and you will not be able to pay me, right? But what if we give you enough to make you operate and then do your business, of course, do your business safely and securely, of course, in compliance with relevant regulations. That's how I will secure your environment. I want to understand what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and I will give you exactly what you need to stay safe while you do what you do. So taking that back to the question you're asking. So it goes back to what I said about having business acumen. You want to understand what I do really is I collaborate a lot with the business, whoever the stakeholder is that I'm working with. I don't just go to them and say, oh, here are the risks I found, here are the things you need to do. Right. And I will just give a scenario, a very recent one actually, where we found that, okay, the log and monitoring was like disparate, was all over the place. And the recommendation was to be that implement a SIEM to centralize your log and monitoring. And what did I do? I didn't go and say, oh, you must do this. I went to them, of course, to the control owner in this case, or you can call the risk owner, and said, who was like the what's it called, managing director. And I was like, what would it take to implement a SIEM? A SIEM is Security Information and Event Management Tool system. I said, what would it take to implement a SIEM in your environment today? He said, that's impossible right now. I said, why not? He said, because that's a capital expense. It's a whole project. The budget, what's it called, is not happening until another 6 months. So we can't get approval for another 6 months. So that's not possible. I said, okay, that's good. Okay, so this is why I'm asking. So I gave him why I asked, okay, this is what we found, and these are the risks around that. If we're able to, is there anything we can do? And it's okay if you want me to talk to your architect and we can work out something. Is there something we can do to get you like a more consistent log and monitoring that has got these capabilities that is able to, of course, consistency around the time stamp, and it's all around, say, 6 months or 3 months. And I think it was, 3 months was the recommendation. And of course, everything is being captured across 3 months, and the alerting system is similar to everything else, and we're not getting different different notifications for different events. So like to just centralize everything. He said, okay, he wasn't in the best position to give me an answer. So we set up another call with the enterprise architect, and we worked out something, what we would call a compensating control. We built a plan to get that implemented, and in 2 weeks, they got everything set up. They got all their systems connected, and everything was good there. But again, that was like an interim, remember, compensating control, that's what we call it. An interim solution, pending when they implement the SIEM. What do you think would have happened if I said, you know what, you must get a SIEM in place. If you don't, you'll fail or you can't be compliant. If the auditor comes, the auditor will fail you, blah, blah. It means maybe that would be the end of my job too, or my engagement with them, right? But I sat down with them and figured out what would work for them. So that's how I balance security with user functionality and availability of, because it's very important that the system or the information they need is available to them when they need it. That's why I talked about the CIA triad earlier. As you're ensuring confidentiality and integrity of information, that information must also be available to those that need it when they need it, so they can continue to operate. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. My next question is going to be, what are the lessons that you've learned over the years in this role or in this space generally?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. And I will put that, it's just one, maybe should I say is a phrase or is a sentence? Is that what I've learned as a cybersecurity professional, I would say as a professional generally, not just that when we are in a business of serving the business. All we're doing is we're rendering service to business. We can call ourselves shared services. The only reason we're set up is to bring ROI, return on investment for business. If what you're doing as a cybersecurity professional is to block, which used to be the case, is to block the business from operating or frustrate their effort to implement a project that would bring value, then you're not doing your job. In fact, you should be out of that job. You should be kicked out of that job immediately, right? But what we do, everything we do, our sole purpose is to enable the business. That's something I've learned. And how you do it is by collaborating relentlessly with the business, continuously understanding how the business evolves, how the business operates, and how they are evolving. You want to be, if you're the CISO, you want to be in the board, you want to be in the executive meeting where they're deciding what to implement next, what their vision is, what their goal for the next year is. You want to be there because you want to start thinking, how do I make sure that they get there successfully as a cybersecurity person? So nothing technical. It's all, I know it sounds like I'm teaching business management, but that's what we do in this space. And the other thing I would say is, even though I said we're not technology, you want to be on top of the latest trends, which in today's world, really technology is moving faster than anything else. So you're looking at what's happening in the industry, in your organization, in your organization's industry, or in the world at large, and you're looking at how would this impact my client? How would this impact my company? And how can I make sure that we are ready for it? Generative AI is one. Some companies are blocking its usage because they don't fully understand it. As a cybersecurity professional, you want to be on top of that. And you want to be going to business to say, oh, this new thing is happening. And it can benefit us this way, although there are certain risks that we're well aware of. And these are the things we can, if we need to use it, because I think it will benefit us this way. These are things we can put in place to make sure that we use it safely and in compliance with certain regulations. So these are the things I've learned in my years of practice. Ultimately, we are serving the business.
Okay, thank you. Before my last questions, this is to our audience. If you have any question, you can write the number 7 in the chat, and I can call you and you can ask your question accordingly. And our last question for today is, what advice would you offer for individuals that are looking to enter the cybersecurity industry, or people that are already in the industry that they want to advance, they want to take the next step?
Okay. So yeah, I'll kind of put my advice together. And the number one thing I would say is it is possible. What do I mean by that? It is possible. Anyone can do it. Wait, you want to get into cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is for everybody. If you have what it takes, or if you have resilience enough and you can learn what you need to learn, you can get into this space. It is for everybody. There's so much shortage. We need more people. If you're already in the space and you just want to level up, again, I'll say it is possible. Because you see the people up there, the directors, I've engaged with a lot of people at the higher level over time, talking about the CEOs, the C levels, the VPs, partners, and what have you. And you realize there are people like yourself. There are people like myself. And they're not special breeds. Some cases you figure that I know this space more than they do. And that's the beauty of it. They know. And that's why they would hire you too. Right? That's why they would hire you. So they're not special breeds. They're not special beings. They're people like yourself. You just, what I say to people is you need support, You need the right guidance sometimes to know how to see the value you have, to see your own value. You need support. You need a bit of push. You need a bit of someone that can stand in your corner and say, I believe in you, go for it. This is how much you can do. Sometimes we need that. But for some people, they just need to hear it again and say, you are enough, go for it. So that's number one thing I would share. The number two thing is never doubt yourself. It's okay to feel, oh, you're not ready. No, I'm not ready. No, I'm not there yet. But in the midst of uncertainty, I also say, keep going forward, keep pushing. And a bit of a tricky thing there. So when I say keep pushing, I didn't say keep moving. Okay, I said keep moving, but I meant keep moving forward. Because what I've learned over time is people can be doing a lot of things, but getting nothing done. I know it's probably a saying you've heard before. You can be busy, like learning this, learning that, and doing all sorts of things. But the most important action you're supposed to take to get to the next level, you're not taking it. That is the most tricky thing. Oh, I've been trying to get into cybersecurity for 20 years. For 10, okay, that's too much. For 3 years. Yeah, I've been trying to get into cybersecurity for 3 years. And really, it's not easy. It's not. You ask the person, what steps have you taken? What steps have you really taken to get into cybersecurity? Oh, I've read this. I have this certification. I have that certification. I've read this other book. I know this. I know that. Have you put any of those things to use? What's your current job title? What job are you currently doing? Are you practicing cybersecurity in your current role? Have you made any move to move if you're not able to practice in your current role? Have you tried to explore things within your organization to say, okay, this is who I was yesterday, this is who I am today. Can you move me accordingly? If that's not possible, if that's not happening, have you tried it elsewhere? Have you tried to even get a job outside or practice anywhere? So if I'm getting a lot done, or you can be doing a lot but not getting much done because you're making a lot of movement but you're not moving forward. So that's key. When I say, so never doubt yourself, keep moving, but keep moving forward. Then what I would say as well, if you're already studying, if you're already learning, if you have support, if you have a mentor, you have a coach, good for you, because that helps a lot. They will guide your thought and instruct. If you don't, and you want to do it on your own, like I did, because I did that, I learned on my own for the most part. What I would say is pick a framework. Pick one framework, just one framework, and master it. That may be all you will ever need in your career in terms of the fundamentals and the principles that would guide your thoughts and the things you do in cybersecurity. Take one framework. If you're going to take NIST, that's fine. ISO, CIS, or any other framework that is out there. Pick one framework and master it. You will thank me later. Because what you realize is all the other frameworks, they're a flavor of this one framework you've picked, and you can easily map them. The same thing if you're leading a compliance project or a compliance initiative, you'd realize that look at all the compliance requirements, talking about data protection standards and regulations. They're all a flavor of what you would find in all these frameworks. And you can use this framework to become compliant with those regulatory requirements. And yeah, those would be my advice. So it's possible. Never doubt yourself. Keep moving forward. Pick a framework and master it. 4 things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for answering all our questions for today. So that was our last question. Now the floor is open for contributions, clarifications, and questions. So let me check the chat. Is there anyone that have any question? We don't have anything in the chat, so this is time for you to ask your questions. Anyone?
Hello.
Hi, Tutu.
Hi. I just wanted to contribute if I could, because a lot of the things that you said really resonated with me. personally, in the sense that like you can be busy acquiring knowledge but not really moving forward. So to me, that's a big connection for me. And because I had my Scrum, I had I got my Scrum certification, but didn't really get a chance to use it in the field, like at my work. So I think that is a big thing for a lot of people. That's something that kind of scares people, in that they think that they need to get all these certifications to get it done, but not really getting the right ones, or not having any sort of direction. So I'm a big supporter for getting mentorship as much as possible. And I'm glad that this is an avenue that a lot of people can take advantage of and get that quality mentorship. Thank you.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you
Titi.
for that contribution. Any other person? Yeah, okay. Maybe I will ask my own question then. I know what you've been saying, and this is more of a clarification. Especially, I know the people in us will really understand this, but this is for the people that will be watching this outside now. And what you've really mentioned is about cybersecurity management. As we know, there are two sides to cybersecurity. But of course, we have like the technical part, and then there's where we focused on, which is the non-technical part. So I just want you to make that clarification. And I'm just thinking of someone that wants to go into ethical hacking, and these things you've mentioned, and they might be looking wrongly. And I just want you to make that clarification, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I think I do, and let me know if I don't. So
Yeah.
You're asking, so the qualities and all of those things I've talked about so far, that do they still apply in quote technical side of cybersecurity?
Yeah.
And I would say the answer is yes. It does apply in any side of cybersecurity you find yourself, because what I've seen people on the technical side struggle with a lot of the time is that they're supposed to do things a certain way, because we on the cybersecurity management side, we have made that recommendation. They come in and to say, oh no, we can't do it that way, we must do it this other way, because they don't have the business acumen. They don't understand the business as much as we do. And if you're going to do ethical hacking, you can identify a vulnerability, a weakness as high or critical, but then without understanding the context of your organization, and it gets in and like, no, this is not critical for us, because this system is never going to get connected to the internet.
Yeah.
No one is ever going to exploit this vulnerability we are talking about. So it's not something we should put all our resources on to fix immediately. It's something that can wait for later, even 6 months. So it's very important that, yes, no matter what area of cybersecurity you find yourself in, you should still have these qualities, be it application security and all of that, because you still need to understand how your business operates and how the business works. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Is there any other person that have question?
There are a number of people in the audience. Any question? Is everybody just listening in? Or is it I haven't said anything at all?
Remember, we are all here to learn from ourselves. So if you have any question or clarification or contribution, this is the time. So I guess Kike has a question here. What she said, what are some of the
Sorry, I typed it because my network is bad.
It's okay. Yeah, you can drop it in the chat also if you I can always read it out. So she said, what are some of the common challenges or obstacles that people face when they're starting a career in cybersecurity, and how can they overcome them?
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you, Kike, for asking that. And the number one challenge I see people face is really self-doubt. Because where people don't think they're enough. So let's say you're coming from an IT project management background, and you don't feel like the risk management you did as a project manager or your engagement with the security team, risk assessing your initiative is valuable enough to get you in a role. Or when you're starting off, you're thinking maybe that's not enough, or maybe you need more, and then you will self-doubt yourself out of possible opportunities that can get you in. Or like in my case, I talked myself out of taking that CISO role way back. I don't know if it comes now, if I'll still take it. I'm not even applying for that anyways. But I talked myself out of it. And till today, I keep wondering, what if I did? Where would I be today? Would I have, I don't know, maybe I would have struggled and dropped out of cybersecurity as a whole, or maybe I would have enjoyed it and I'll probably just be soaring high. I don't know, right? What I say to people is, don't leave yourself, like in another few years, will you be wondering, what if I did it? You get the point. So self-doubt is the number one thing that people struggle with. If you can, and like they say, competence brings confidence. If you have the knowledge, you've tested your knowledge and you feel like, okay, it's good enough, I say shoot and see what comes back. And trust me, most of the time when you take action, results come. I'd say all of the time, really, if you take the right actions, the right results would follow. So, and the other mistake I know people make is when an offer gets made, especially if you're not getting 2 offers, 3 offers at once, or maybe the others are still, you're waiting for those other offers to come, or the other interviews to come, and you have one offer. People jump at it without negotiating. What I would tell you today is, if a company makes you an offer, it's because they see value in you. It's because they see value in you. If they don't see value in you, they're not going to pay you for the value you're not offering. Remember what I said before, we are serving the business, and they want to see ROI, return on investment. So if they're putting their money in your, what's it called? If they're putting their money on you, it's because they see value in you. And I'll just share something real quick. I think it was this week. I turned down an offer. And I struggled with that for a long time, because it's something I've been hoping to get. And I struggled with it, even though I felt it in my bones that it wasn't the right thing for me. I followed through. I went through with it. And when the offer was made, of course, I do what I preach. What did they say? How did they say it? I negotiated. We had a lot of back and forth. And I looked at the eventual offer. I looked at it. I looked at where I'm at with my business, with my everything. And I said, no, this is not for me. And I turned it down. I'm sure it came as a shock to them as well. Because I had to, of course, you have to be realistic with yourself. What am I saying in essence? That don't think you cannot negotiate. Don't think that offer, like you must take that offer. No, you don't have to. If it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel like the right thing for you, just turn it down. Other ones would come. If that company sees you, if they value you enough to make you an offer, that tells you that you're doing something right. Other ones will come. I'll pause there and give them further questions.
Yeah, I just want to contribute to that. So when you're starting in this role, unless if it's a contract role, you're still going to be trained anyways. So that's an opportunity for you to learn. Companies offer training, and get ready to learn from other colleagues that have been there, and also the network that you have. Go back to them, and as much as possible, learn from them. So if you don't start, you don't know, right? It's until you start. That is when you know. So the training will always be there for you. It's an opportunity for you to learn, unless, of course, if it's a contract role, then you're there to, to kick off from day one. Yeah. So any other question?
Even in a contract role, yes, they wouldn't invest in your training, but they will at least show you the ropes, show you how things work in the environment. Because they can't just throw you in without, let's say if you even joined a project, they'll show you what they have and what they need you to do. And you can, again, remember, you have to research and learn. Then you can take your learning from there.
Yeah. So any other person? We're almost done. This is 12:50. Any other question, clarification, contribution? Okay, so I'll say there's nothing else. Thank you, our guest speaker, and our audience. It was a impactful session for me, and hope everyone have learned one or two things.
I just have a quick thing to say. So, okay, yeah, I know a lot of you know who's on the other side, and I know the guest today. Subsequently, I will be either your host or your co-host going forward, and we'll be bringing people from, of course, from across the industry, leaders from across the industry to come and share their insights and what their day-to-day looks like with you. So you can all learn from it and you can know that you're ready enough. And like I always say, over 80% of people in cybersecurity today did not start off in cybersecurity.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and we'll be bringing people to share their insights, share how they started, where they are today, and the fact that you are ready enough. And hopefully that will boost your confidence getting into this space and making things happen.
Yeah, thank you. These are part of the and these and other practical sessions. That is what our program offers as cybersecurity management professional coaching program. So if you are a professional in tech or highly regulated environment and you're looking on how you can leverage your previous experience to get into the cybersecurity space, we can make it a 6-figure cybersecurity professional within 8 to 12 weeks. You can book an appointment with a team. It will be dropped in the comment section and you can reach out to us.
Yeah, so that's on YouTube for those that are on YouTube.
Yeah, this is for those on YouTube and other platforms. So until next time, cheers to your success. See you guys next time.
Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You too.
Thank you.